I've used D'Addario strings myself for at least 30 years, if not more.
Everybody who comes in here, with very, very few exceptions, plays D'Addario strings. And they didn't get there because of any reason except dependability and tone.
Hey everyone, this is Chris Kies for From Your Guitar. Today I'm at the Brooklyn Bowl with Ruban of Unknown Mortal Orchestra. Ruban, how you doing?
I'm alright. How are you?
Real good, man. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us about gear and all what you make out of your guitar and the amps and everything we're going to find out about your pedalboard. So let's start off right off the top about this awesome Baranik, who I got familiarized with this company from Barty Strange. He had one of his rig rundown.
Yeah.
That was one of his guitars he had. So tell me about how you got familiar with this company and what you dig about this instrument.
Well, Mike Baranik, who builds these guitars, he saw us at, I think it was Montreux Jazz or something like that.
Okay.
And it was years ago, and he tried to get like a run up to me and say hi then, but didn't, and so it took him a while to get in touch with me, and then he was, I've always played in this band, Fender Jagstang.
Yeah.
And so his pitch was kind of like I could, make a guitar that would do everything that does better and more, So, and I was kind of like, okay, well, let's try it.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah. And so we had a lot of conversations, a lot of texting back and forth, and after talking to him for a while, I was like, oh, this guy's like kind of a genius. The oldest, kind of very simple innovations he had suited the way that I think about music, and so we ended up with this thing, which he calls B3-R, and it's basically like the Jagstang is quite an imperfect creature, and that's what I like about it, but this is like everything, but there's also a lot of things like quirks to it that I really kind of like influence my style, and so this is like a lot of things about it that I liked about the Jagstang. They're actually flaws kind of turned into like features,
Can you explain or elaborate more on those types of flaws and features?
Well, I suppose the thing that we kind of spent the most time on, and the thing that is maybe the weirdest thing about this guitar is I like guitars that you can manhandle, kind of like bend them and change the tone by bending the body or pushing the neck and things like that. So I've always.
I'm sorry, but
to
interrupt. But did that start with your evolution playing the Telecaster and the Mint Chicks?
Yeah.
Because the Tellies, you can really get those to bend.
Yeah, I think Telly is more like a big solid piece of wood, and you can bend it. But when I started playing the Jagstang, I think it was so much kind of like looser. So I started to really, like everyone, I feel like I'm a big Bill Frisell fan. So that extra dimension of being able to change the tone through manipulating the body of the guitar itself became like a really big part of my the way I like to play guitar. And this actually has like a spring, like 2 springs in here, and like a whole system, which actually you can dial in like how loose the neck is.
Really?
So it's made to actually like be manipulatable, and you can actually make it super loose to the point where it's like really silly. And sometimes, you know, like I'll do that. Like if I'm recording, I'll probably loosen it up and maybe do some silly stuff with it. But on the road, it gets tighter. But even when you tighten it up for the road, it's still like, you know, feels like you can bend the guitar in half basically. And another thing is like I customize my jag stand quite a lot, and one of the things I did was I hollowed out behind the pick guard and made the guitar about 2 pounds lighter. And so this is like made of koa and basswood, I think it is, and so it's just kind of the lightest it could possibly be, so it can, you know, you can do this like no trouble. And also recently I've had some like nerve problems, and you know, just having like heavy stuff and like messing up my spine and things like that was no good. So like making the guitar as light as possible was kind of one of the goals.
Was there?
I mean, yeah, he hand wound these things.
Was there any sonic appeal to having a lighter guitar that maybe might have more resonance, or the hollowing out behind the pickups? Or was it strictly to fight against gravity and compression and, you know, the things that come with that?
I think the thing that I've found a lot is like I'll do something for a practical reason. Like on, you know, we have a tour and we spent like touring like 8 years in a row or something like that. So it'd be like, this guitar's a little bit too heavy, you know, so I go and like drill it a bunch of holes and like dig out, you know, try to make it. And then once I do that, you know, I do something for kind of like a really kind of like hit and run reason, and then later I'd find like, oh, I like the way it sounds. So it's kind of like it goes the other way around, where I like do something and then find that it gives me a new perspective or a new sound or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then also on stage, you know, like I used to always take the guitar off and like hold it up in the air, and then I found like, oh, the lighter it is, the easier it is to do that thing. You know, I don't have to be like, whoa, and then, you know, drop the guitar or whatever. And
do you ever throw it off stage at Benji? Give it a toss?
Yeah, we've done a few different things like that. Yeah, we. Yeah, and up on stage, like if I used to run around in the crowd a lot, and I, like throw them the guitar. There are pictures there's a picture of you doing this, and the guitar's like in the midair, really good picture. Yeah, so yeah, we definitely, especially about like before COVID, when I was getting in the mix a lot more.
Yeah.
Then yeah, we were definitely throwing the guitars. But I think we might get back into that a little bit. Yeah. Now that people are less COVID paranoid.
Now, what should we know about, you kind of alluded to, and we went in a different path, but let's get back to the pickups. Because we know with the Jag Stang, it originally comes with the humbucker single coil, and you put in laces.
Yes.
So what do we got here, and kind of where are you going sonically for him and Mike?
Well, the laces were just because, you know, like, you know, the Jag Stang's so floored. Like, one of the things that was kind of noisy for some of the venues we play, so I Googled noiseless pickups and found laces and just bought them, not knowing that they were good, but they are good.
Yeah.
And I love the sound of them. And I was talking to him about, you know, about that, and then he put some old laces that he had, because the first guitar he ever built actually had laces in it, so he took them out of that and put them in my first version of this, which is the red one. And then another thing was I really like those Japanese-made late 70s guitars, but they're not like reliable enough to take on the road. But I just always loved the way they sounded. So and he knows like a lot of stuff about these kind of like all these kind of like they're almost like orphan brands, you know, like they would make them and then you put a brand on it later.
Yeah.
But I love the sound of those pickups, and I think there's something between the you know, like old pickups and the pickups in those Japanese guitars. They're unpotted, and so he was like, oh, it might be you like the sound of an unpotted pickup. You take that on the road, that might unravel and some weird stuff might happen. So he came up with a way of trying to make a pickup that is it's potted, but it's not doesn't sound potted. So so that's what this has as well as these pickups he made. They're all like hand wound and everything.
Would you
sound?
I'm sorry, again. Would you classify them as like a single coil or a humbucker? Or?
They are single coil.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They're pretty simple. It's just he potted them with. He was experimenting with different things that he could pot them with that wouldn't create that compressed sound. Because I think the potting to my ears takes away quite a lot of time. So yeah, trying to find a guitar that you can take on the road, but that has like all that the maximum amount of sound without that compressed sound.
Are you able to divulge or even know what he used for the material? Because I know most times it's wax or some type of a wax.
I think it was some kind of shellac or a resin or something.
Okay.
Nothing too proprietary. I don't know. You have to ask Mike about it, honestly.
Mike, jump in the comments.
I'm a bit dumb. But yeah, also I didn't know about these things. I didn't really. I knew that guitar pickups were potted, but I always thought, that's good, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that my ear was gravitating to these cheaper pickups because they have less of the stuff to make them like more reliable. And stuff. Yeah.
What should we know about strings and tunings that you typically use, like on this tour, when we're talking songs and stuff from all your catalog?
I've always tuned Hendrix tuning.
So half step?
Yeah. And that's just because I tried it one time thinking Hendrix is good. and I was like, oh, I get it, why he did this. It's like the neck thing. It's like everything's slinkier and it feels more malleable. So I did that and I've stuck with that. And then at the moment I'm actually running 9s, right? Yeah. Because of my nerve issues, I was finding it harder to fret chords and bend and stuff like that. I had like a problem with my hand that I was going to physio for. So, and that they're still on there. So I'm running shreddy light
Shredded Krugers.
gauge.
Yeah, like Eddie. I think he
gauge.
did 90s, 9 to 42s.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Except Ingwe used super heavy. He uses super heavy gauge, right?
Ingve, I know that.
Super light, right?
Yeah. I think,
is it really?
I think Ingve, and then like someone like Billy Gibbons goes even lighter than that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I think he goes 8s. Yeah.
Oh,
he has his
8s,
own set that Dunlop makes that are 8s. So you're playing the 9 to 42 sling or Ernie Ball super slinkies.
Ernie balls, yeah. And they I think we made it onto the packet now, which is like, that's more important to me than most achievements in music industry.
It's funny how that you first go into music stores and you see those posters and those colors.
Yeah.
You get associated. I couldn't tell you what I play, but I'm always associated with the green, the 10s.
Yeah.
But like
yeah.
So it's like I'm more so same thing with like Dunlop Tortex picks. I couldn't tell you what the millimeters are, but I colors.
Yeah.
It's a very color-based thing, but you always see the posters of our heroes on there.
Yeah.
So to have your name on there's got to be pretty cool.
And they're like better strings too. I don't know. They have a lot of. They last a long time. Like there are strings that sound good when you first put them on, and then 2 gigs later they're kind of, like mellowed out too much or whatever. So I don't know. I've been sticking with them. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And yeah. That's what I played when I was a kid too, if I could afford them,
Yeah. And what should we know about it's how you hold the guitar on your kind of like front shoulder rather than over the neck? Is that compensating for any type of injuries you've occurred?
No, it might have caused them though, but I just
really?
no, I don't know. I'm trying to think why I started doing this. I think I just got sick of going like this.
Yeah.
And so I started doing that, and then once my strap had kind of, like I had a leather strap, and once it had kind of shaped itself to be comfortable like that, I found there was like no downside to it. So nowadays I just think like, why doesn't everybody do this? But I don't know if it's good for me, like orthopedically, but I think it's okay. It's just the weight is just like a lot on this. kind of axis rather than kind of in the center. But I also used to do kind of tricks with it as well. Like, so I think that was part of it. Like, I used to kind of like flip it around, and it was always better to be on the shoulder. And if I need to change guitars or get rid of it, I just go like that rather than kind of like having to, you know. Sometimes I wear a cap and it like knock my head off or whatever. It was like annoying, so I just put it over the shoulder.
Now, before we move on to the sitar behind me here, is there anything we should know, anything going on under the hood electronically? I see a lot of bright buttons, so I don't know if that anything special is going on or if it's a pretty standard.
Well, I guess the other thing that's really good is that I really like is it has a fader for the pickups. So the blend comes from a fader, so you can kind of dial in where you are, which is really good.
And do you do that from a night-to-night basis? Like,
I mean, just during the show, like halfway through a song, if it's a little too dark and throaty and it needs to like cut through more, I would push it further this way. And I don't know why. It's just a lot of the stuff that Mike does. I'm like, why doesn't everybody do this? I think the fader, it's like a studio quality fader. Like a lot of these things are, I guess, kind of expensive, you know.
Yeah.
For mass production, but yeah. No, on my old guitar, I put a kill switch because I took the tone knob out and didn't know what else to do with the hole, so I just put a kill switch that I never really used that much.
Okay.
So he put that on there, and it has I think it's a high pass and like two tone things. Oh yeah, phase flip, which is the other thing I really like about the Jag Stang. Was it we put the pickups out of phase, and I use that sound a lot, the out of phase sound.
Okay.
And so this has a out of phase switch, and I just sometimes go out of phase, and it creates a more hollow kind of janky kind of. To my ears, it's like an old school '60s
recording,
like beat band kind of like Kinks kind of sound.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I go from, you know, kind of a more, I guess, Jimmy kind of sound to something more like the Kinks or something like that.
It's nice British. It's a very quick way to change a guitar without changing a guitar. In terms of like an instrument.
Yeah. And I like things that make things sound janky. It's like a positive thing for me.
Shitty is pretty.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's move on to the sitar here. We gotta learn all about this.
Yeah.
If you want to change out here.
Yeah. So this is a replacement. I had a Rogue sitar that I used for a long time.
All right.
And then at some point, because there were like things rattling around inside of it, and you can't open it up. So if something goes wrong with this, it's sometimes hard to work on it. So I just was kind of like, I need a slightly fancier version of the thing I've got. So I found these guys, and it's a Jerry Jones sitar, and I mean it's great. I don't know. It's very fun. It's on a lot of my favorite records, the sound, and it's like a nice novelty thing to have. And some of the songs have this as like an important part of the sound. So I have this still on the road.
How much would you say it gets used on stage throughout the night? You know, probably not 50-50.
2 songs.
Okay. So
yeah, two songs. Yeah, so 20% of the set or even less. But it's nice to switch over. Totally different gain staging.
Could we hear a little bit of it? Just like maybe
sure.
how you're using it compared to the Baranik here?
Man, kind of
that
vibe.
has a very distinct, like thumbprint or voice. You know what I mean? It's certainly its own thing. Even while you're just playing the standard 6 strings, it has a very unique voice.
Yeah, there's a lot of psych and soul music that I love. Have the sound, 60s music was like a big pop staple for, you know, all kinds of different records. It's fun to play, and it's like a totally different sound. Like it sounds like a guitar, but it plays like a guitar. So I don't know.
Do you ever mess with the upper register strings? I don't actually know
these things.
Yeah, yeah.
Like if we're kind of like improvising or something like that, I might mess with it a little bit, but it's not part of any song. It would be, you know, I kind of want to keep it so that, like, if this thing broke in half on the way to the gig or something, I can just play it on the guitar without it, like, completely ruining it. But these are cool, and I think these kind of, like, resonate while this is playing and kind of, like, contribute to the kind of sound of it, the strange sound of it. But it has, like, a strange tone control. Like, each one of these is a separate, I guess it's more like a Gibson thing, and I'm not really, it always annoys me like that. I prefer really dumb, simple.
You like a master?
Yeah.
So like one does it all type of thing?
Yeah, I think I would go Sonic Youth with it, you know, if I could, and just take all of it away, set it to the, you know, the one setting that I want and just not have any control over it. But it still looks cool. Yeah. Like knobs look cool. That's why there's a kind of bunch of buttons and stuff on that I hardly ever use. I just kind of feel like it looks cool.
It's very space age.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll have you get the Baranik back on, and let's talk about your amp setup here.
Okay, so at the moment I'm running a stereo setup. Two Benson amps. Benson is run out of Portland, where I'm based mostly, and the old warehouse is actually walking distance from my house. And it's funny because
that sounds dangerous, being that close proximity to a creative guy like Chris, where you might rack up a big tab.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's probably true. I just like it was funny because I was getting frustrated with the amps I was using, and I thought, like, maybe I need to be like one of these real guitar guys and, like, you know, find a boutique company and trying to, you know, do that stuff. And so I looked up a bunch of companies to try and find one that I would like to start, you know, trying some stuff out with. And I found Benson. And then I was getting really into these Benson amps. Like, these sound really great. They seem like you can kind of do anything with them. And then found out that it was like right in my part of town, and then realized it was like I could literally walk there. He's like right in my neighborhood, which was totally mind blowing. I was like, okay, so it's definitely this is meant to be.
This is a sign.
Yeah, and so and then. You know, the guy who did Knobs and the Chase Bliss guys were in town, and they got a bunch of us together for a little, like, we had a beer, and it was at Chris's place, and I was just explaining to Chris, I was just getting ready to hit you up, and I was going to buy an amp, and so we kind of met there and got to know each other, and then I had this idea, because I always loved these Yamahas.
Yeah.
And I kind of like, you know, buy them up, and then just like love the way they look. I love, like, I don't know, there's something about the fact that they are like, they look too thin to be an amp. Yeah. It's like really futuristic. And
they look like they should be over in Stonehenge.
Yeah. And there's just something very Japanese about it, with this, like, they're going to like invent this new space age kind of amp. But they were solid state, and although they sound like really cool, I think if you based your entire sound around the way that they sound, I think they'd be perfect, but it's so far away from what I want.
Yeah.
So the idea was, like, asking Chris, like, would you put one in here? And at first he was like, I don't have time, I can't do that, I can put you in touch with some people. I was like, that's fine. And so that went on the back burner for like 3 years. And then, I bought some more. I bought an amp, and I was enjoying it, and bought a few other things. And then one day he was just like, "Hey, do you still have that Yamaha?" Like, just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's like, "Bring it over. We'll put an amp in it for you." I was like, "Oh my God, yes!" It was like this weird dream of mine to bring this on tour and set it up like this, so you see it from the side.
Yeah.
And because that's the kind of that's the kind of thing that I would think was cool if I was watching my favorite band and I was there. I'd be like, what is that weird cheese wedge thing that he's playing? You know, that's the stuff that, like, you know, changed my life basically.
Yeah.
So I was like, I got to do that. And then, yeah, so Chris made this dream come true, and now I have, you know, like, this is like the coolest thing this is like the ultimate amp for me. So
Should we know anything about like the circuit, or is it something like maybe did he just put like a existing amp, like a Monarch in here, like circuitry wise?
I actually have to. The problem is that it's the wattage on this is scalable, so I don't know which amp that is currently in the lineup that employs that, or if he hasn't even started to sell those, or if he only made a few of them. But it's really special. You can actually it has a tube controlled wattage control, so you can turn the wattage of the amp up or down, which is also like perfect for me because I would keep the wattage pretty low. But if you want to open the headroom up, it's basically a headroom knob.
Yeah.
You know, so if you want it to be crushed and hit the headroom really soon, you turn it down, and then if you want to open it up and make it like more what Benson is known for, which is just like a kind of infinite headroom, and you just like turn it all the way up. So it's cool because you can dial in the perfect amp for where you are, you know, for what night you're on. And I do like the idea of having anything from, you know, 3 watts to 30 watts. It's really cool.
Is the speaker something that he put in there, or is that the original Yamaha speaker?
It's the original Yamaha speaker.
Okay.
That's one of the things I love about this amp. Before Chris got to it, is it has a polystyrene speaker that's actually square. So it has these square speakers in there, and they made a polystyrene, and I think Chris was kind of like, well, I don't know about that speaker. I really put a good amp in there, but if you want that speaker, I can't speak for it, you know.
Yeah.
But I think it sounds great.
Sounds like a good marriage.
It's good, yeah. It's it does sound interesting. It's like, I don't know why people don't make polystyrene speakers anymore, but I have another one that had a crack in the speaker, and I used paper mache to fix the crack in the speaker, and it works great. So they're pretty durable speakers. So.
And what's the other one behind here, the actual true Benson?
This is the Nathan Jr.
Okay.
And this is like, you know, a standard little amp, you know. We call it Little Jimmy because Dave kept forgetting what the name of the amp was.
Yeah.
So we call him Jimmy. But yeah, it's just a great amp. I mean, it has a lot more frequency response because of the speaker and because it's designed by Chris from the ground up, you know?
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways it's a better amp, but in some ways I still like this. I don't know if I like this one better just because it's the only one that exists and because it's my one or whatever, but it has limitations, you know, compared to that one.
Well, let's hear them both in flight as we go through your pedalboard. Where should we start, Ruben?
Where do you want to start?
Let's start, actually, I'm going to start with the compressor, because I've known that you've been known to move its placement in the signal chain, and now I'm seeing 2 compressors. So let's start there. Why 2 compressors, and where are they sitting at in the signal chain?
Well, this is a tube compressor. I found out about this through Mike Baranik. He showed me, I can't remember who it was. He showed me this guitarist. He was like an Australian guy. And he was saying that it was a video where they were saying that it was like he was like an old guy. I shouldn't have. I've said too much. It was like acoustic music, right? And he was saying that when he recorded, he liked to use an LA2A. That's his favorite sound to put his acoustic guitar into, and so. And then he said he wanted something like that for live, so he wanted a tube compressor. So that was the logic. And then he found this thing. And I thought, He was like, yeah, this is the compressor I found that's done that. I was like, you've got a pedal that sounds like an LA2A? So I got this thing. It's the model PC2A from what's this? I keep forgetting what this. Effectrode, I think, is the company.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
I
I've never
bought this
seen it.
thing, and just because that sounded really, I don't know. It's just like that would be crazy if it did what he likes about the LA 2A.
Does it?
I think it's like. It sounds like a compressor, not a compressor pedal, if that makes sense. Yeah, so it's really good. The only thing is that I'd never really taken it on the road, so that's why there's two.
Oh, okay. So there's not some double magic front and back.
Yeah, no.
So where is that compressor sitting in the signal? Is it at the beginning or the
It's
end?
actually at the very beginning, right? I think.
pretty close, yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm hitting that first.
Okay.
In this version of the setup. Yeah, and you know, it's pretty. You know, it's like. Yeah. It shaves off a little bit of the transient and it fattens things up. Mm-hmm. It's like a real compressor, you know. Not so much the effect. Not so much that Nile Rodgers kind of like clipped kind of sound, but like a kind of fat sound.
Now,
So-
as we go through forward beyond the compressor here, how are they hitting the amps? Like, how are they? Is there a certain flow that's hitting each amp, or
Yeah.
is one only hitting the one amp, and the other amp is dry?
Okay, so I have so this is the channel down here.
Okay.
This is basically to here is really all I'm running on the actual guitar as I play it. Then it goes into the Strymon deco,
Okay.
and the Strymon has a stereo out, and Dave had been running my guitar stereo for quite a while, a few years, and I thought over pandemic, you know, leading up to coming back and getting back on the road, I thought I had time to do an idea that had been kind of like sitting in my head for a while, which is set up, you know, something from my end that contributes to this stereo thing, rather than just have my sound and then have him splitting it like at some point. I thought I could make that fruitier, and then so the deco is cool because it's tape emulator. It has some like imperfections, and it sends out in a kind of chorusy way. So I have like two, you know, like a false double tracking kind of effect through that, and I have one side, you know, both sides are kind of have different movement, so they have a little bit of so when it goes out front of house, a completely different signals left and right, and that, you know, sounds good. And then I also have a bunch of these jam retro vibes, and I just like, I don't know, I have a ton of them actually, just in case, you know.
Yeah.
Like hoarding them kind of, and so I thought maybe before I split them out of the deco into two different ones, two different retro vibes, the first one I bought and like the new one, and then have those kind of like also separately affecting the stereo signal, so yeah, so make it even more like stereo.
Distinct and like more
Yeah.
swirly.
And then each one of these goes into a different Benson.
Okay.
And this one is also my monitor. So that points at me, because we've been doing our amps on the sides for quite a long time now. And I still don't really understand why bands point their amps at the microphone. It's
Yeah, right.
It's not. I feel like that's one thing that makes us
It's an uphill
front
battle.
of house guys dream, is that we're not too loud on stage, and all of our amps are either pointing off the stage or from the side, like a monitor. Yeah, and yeah, that's it really.
Well, let's get back to the bottom row here real quick. Let's start with it has the tape on it, the gaff tape, Octave Magic. So I assume that's one of your creations?
Yeah, this is kind of the only, this is the only homemade one that's left in the chain at the moment. It's a Fox toe machine that I made. It took a long time to get it right, so...
What was the toughest part?
Just component choices. It's like switching out transistors a lot. The transistors that I ended up using were I think the ones used in the original Moog modular synths, TIS or TI5, I think they're called. And I don't know, that was the thing that made it sound good, and then a bunch of like old resistors and things like that. You know, I'd sit there on the breadboard, just like pulling stuff out and putting other stuff in and just playing, and then pull it out and try a different thing.
So true R&D thing. It wasn't just like, I'm going to copy the schematic. You were trying to get to that tone, but then maybe sculpt a little bit more, build something that was more unique to you?
Yeah, but I think a lot of builders do this too, but I just was, you know, I'd get like a bunch of stuff. Like I was pulling a lot of old components out of tape machines and things like that. Old record players, like I go junk shop and buy something that looked old and then just pull all the shit out of it. And then, so I'd have like some new stuff and some old stuff, and then so I'd get the thing going. It would sound like a Fox tone machine. Okay, it works, that's cool, and then start like putting different things in. And if something sounded good, I'd be like, "Whoa, that's it, cool," you know, and then move to the next component and start switching it out, you know, until it sounded good. So it was just trial and error and being really obsessed with it. But the thing that is weird is I just came up with a thing. It's like exactly the thing I want. So it's like I haven't been able to replace that one yet.
Could we hear the thing?
Yeah, sure.
Super gnarly.
Yeah, it's loud. It's got a nice like clean octave, and it kind of cuts through. I don't know. It just works. I don't know. It just is what I want. So that's been the thing. A lot of friends that build pedals have given me octaves, and then they're really good, and then I just, you know, switch this thing out finally, or can replace this, and then. Because I worry about my pedals because sometimes they just stop working because I put some like component from a reel-to-reel that was just about to blow up, and it took 3 gigs in, it blows up, and it sounded cool while it was dying, but then it's like over. So then that's been like, and then I start to get a bit weary about my own stuff. But this one has survived, so that's good. And
the testament.
Yeah, and it still sounds exactly like what I want it to sound like, and yeah, so that's why it's still there.
What's the nondescript pedal here in the far corner?
This is a fuzz face made by Jam.
Oh, all right. Yeah, that's right.
This actually was this is a case of, I had a fuzz face that I really liked. One of my favorite fuzz faces that I built, I gave to a kid that supported us in Japan. Because we were talking about fuzz pedals, and I was like, oh yeah, and he was like, oh, I like the pedals you build, and then I was like, oh yeah, well, next time I come back, I'll give you one of my fuzz faces. And then we came back and I forgot, but he was like, remember you said you were going to give it to me? And I was like, oh yeah. And he was like, damn, I've only got one left. And I was like, oh, here you go, man. So I was like, I gave him my fuzz face, but
a man of your word.
But the thing about it was that I had this is better than the fuzz face that I had anyway. So that was cool, but because it was kind of fancy, it had a little picture of Jimi Hendrix's face on it that got kicked off on the first gig I used it on, and now it's covered in suede, and now that's getting all messed up. So I was a bit worried about that, but you should just destroy gear. It's meant to be destroyed in the line of duty, you know what I mean? So I like it. I realized, like, yeah, I like it all messed up like this better than sitting perfect in my basement, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, that's a dorky thing to do, so I don't know why I even thought to not take it on the road. So now this is the best fuzz face I've ever used, and I think it's a limited edition version of the fuzz phrase, right? Is that?
I believe that's what Giannis calls it. Yeah, I could be wrong.
And it sounds really good. It's like that kind of thing. Just big woolly fuzz and not too exaggerated, very musical, fun to play, you know.
Yeah.
And you can also like wind the volume back, and then it has that like kind of sound of like it's not starved in the sense that it's like spitting, but like a more mellow, old school kind of fuzz sound.
It's more versatile than just the sting, you know, the set on 10 thing.
Yeah, it's a super usable thing. I use it on a lot of different stuff.
Now I see the Holy Grail that you haven't touched, and the red light's been shooting up at me. Mm-hmm. Is that always on, the Holy Grail?
No, actually, these days I'm trying to turn it off as much as possible. But
okay.
I think I put it on because I was feeling insecure about playing by myself and on the camera.
It's a rather unorthodox thing we ask people to do here, because you create your sound to mesh with the whole band. Yeah. And so then we have you come up here like it's a NAMM demo, and they're like, hey, just show me this pedal.
I think I was hiding behind the reverb a little bit for that, but yeah.
So you got two delays. Obviously the talk back, or the back talk, is the reverse. Mm-hmm. And then how are you using the DD3?
Well, it's in some ways this is like just a gift from Mike Baranik that I just kind of like put on there it kind of loops. I use it as like a short loop.
Okay.
Sometimes when we're like jamming, I just use it, but it's just like a cool thing. I get sentimental about things like that. It's on the board at the moment because Mike has been such a big help on this
seems like
tour
a good
cycle.
Dude.
He's a good guy. Yeah.
Well, the two remaining things, as I know that we got to get out of here for sound check and everything else that happens after we leave, is the Game Changer and the Benson preamp. So how are you using those two individual pedals?
Well, this is a kind of a clean boost, the germanium boost that Chris makes. I don't know if it's out yet. I think it should be out now.
Just to kind of push the amps a little bit.
Yeah, just trying to get into things that I've read about since I was a teenager that I always was. I was just like a little bit too much of a savage to take seriously, like clean boost, you know, things like that, headroom, all these things that you read about. That when you're 16 you think like, what is that? Who cares about that? Clean boost? I don't want a clean boost. I want a distortion pedal. So it's there to run me out of headroom, basically.
Yeah.
Just basically
get you out of the end of the runway.
Yeah. Just get me out of to take some of the subtlety away from the sound. It doesn't really. It's nice. It doesn't distort or really color the sound in a way that's like over the top or anything. But it comes in handy a lot as a functional thing. Sometimes it's the answer to the problem. I just like kick it on, and it's like, okay, something's wrong, and I kick that on, and it makes it louder, and the whole gain structure changes, and it's set to be in a place that's just like, maybe this is the problem. You know, maybe this will work better.
This is the solution.
Yeah.
And how are you using the sustain pedal from Game Changer Audio?
I use this a lot on a lot of different things. I'll use it for the tail of a solo sometimes when I need a second and a half to go from lead guitar overdub to rhythm guitar track that's underneath, you know? So that I'm not going like solo, turn the pedal off and I'm playing the song again. Sometimes I'll trail the solo so that it sounds like one guy was, you know, guitar, and then he goes steps back, and then the rhythm guitarist, like, you can hear him again. So I use it for that a lot, and then I use it a lot for like jamming, making droning sounds, and a lot of scary kind of things that just keep going, you know, notes that sustain. Sometimes I'll play kind of thing where it's just like I'll play a line and hold on to the last note while I play the next line, and then hold on to that again, and stuff like that. And then and also I if I want the guitar to just ring out the last note that I played and put the guitar down and like walk off the stage, or you know, like when it's like tequila time, then I just like leave it ringing, and I can do that as well with this thing because I can make the tail infinite. I just switch the tail to infinite, kick it on, leave it, and then turn it off when I get back on stage. And yeah, that's so it's pretty. It's another one of those pedals that's like it's a very simple concept. So everybody's not going to use it in the same way. And I always like the concept of the freeze pedal as a thing, the idea of like sustaining, but that has a very like cold digital kind of like the artifacts in it very specific, and I never liked that. Whereas this is more like a taking a concept like that and turning it into like a sustain pedal on a piano, and they have the actual like foot pedal that like kind of tells you how to use it a little bit, and it doesn't feel like a digital looping thing or something like that. It feels like what it looks like. It's like a sustain pedal for your guitar, so it's super musical. Hasn't let me down at all. It's really cool.
Well, I did a false ending here. There is one remaining pedal in the top left that we have not covered. So I got to know about this before, otherwise I'm not doing my job, Ruben. So what's the top left? Mystery box.
I can't remember what
problem is that solving?
That was.
Okay.
That was a rat or a what's the green overdrive?
Tube Screamer?
Tube Screamer. It's one of the two. I can't remember exactly. And it has like a lot of different settings in it. And
is that one of your creations?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think I based it on a BYOB or something, one of those kits.
Yeah.
But I did the thing that I did with the Fox Tone, where it's like I didn't really use the components it came with. I kind of like set it up and then replaced all the components, and it sounds good, but I've taken it out of the chain, so it's not.
Got it. Oh yeah.
Jake used it for a long time, which makes me think it's probably a rat, because of I know a lot of bass players that play rats. There must be something about the bass frequencies or something. So it's cool, but I thought it might be there in case I needed another lead tone, I think. But it's also like a janky thing. It gives us trouble because I made it myself. So that's why it's good that there's a lot of people that make good pedals, so I don't have to make all my own.
Well, I really appreciate your time, Ruben, and I want to leave on this note because it was such a cool change of pace from what you did. You've done in the last 4 records. Is your newest record that came out earlier this year. It has a lot more brighter disposition, and it was really cool that I know that you've worked with your dad before, but you really embraced having your dad and obviously Jake on the record. So can you describe what that was like? And you got out of maybe your comfort zone in Portland to go record, I think, in California and Hawaii, was it?
There was some writing in Hawaii. And a lot of recording in Palm Springs over the pandemic. It was weird because I think it was like maybe the darkest time in my life, and I think that's why the record is happier, because I was like,
you needed something.
I don't want to write a sad record because like it's too hard. So
yeah,
it was definitely like a fighting back kind of spirit. Like I'm gonna make a happy record, because I was thinking like everybody is going to want a happy record after all of this like isolation and loss and things. So yeah, that's probably what it's like. I mean, and also my brother and my dad, I was when New Zealand went into lockdown, it was like a serious lockdown. It was like they didn't let people in or out, and there's quarantines and all that stuff. So I didn't get to see them for years, you know. I mean, it's pretty crazy to think about. And then, so when Cody, my brother, first got a chance to leave New Zealand and come back to the States, and you know, it was like I picked him up at the airport, and we were like, I was like blasting like Pusha T at LAX, and I was like, yes, we're, you know, like, I don't know, and we went back and we were like really stoked. So maybe that's why the record, because we were really happy to be hanging out together and you know, stuff like that. So so I don't know, I think we had a lot of fun like finishing the record after all that time, you know. So
well, congrats to that, and I appreciate the uplifting music after the darkness we all survived. So appreciate you, and appreciate your time, TA.
Cheers, man.
Cheers,
Thank
man.
you.
Thank you, guys. Everyone, stay safe. This is Rig Rundown for Chris Kies and Ruben.